Welcome to Project 1, Educational Trends. This is Nash-Puente from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Statement of problem. The adoption of virtual reality as a pedagogical tool in educational landscapes has been expanding exponentially in recent years. Advocates and critics of virtual reality have varying positions related to its worth, efficacy, effectiveness, and promise to be the next educational technological disruptor to traditional pedagogies or the status quo. This trend in education has garnered debate about its appropriateness and implementation in K-8 classrooms. Identification of issue. Should virtual reality be used as a pedagogical tool in K-8 classrooms? Definition and overview. Virtual reality is defined as a computer-generated simulation of a three-dimensional environment with a real-life or physical way for a person to interact with special equipment, usually a headset. Virtual reality simulations can be traced back to the military, medical, and more recently in higher education and gaming. Researchers continue to study the impact of virtual reality's immersive capabilities on learning and teaching. Our proponents and opponents debate the appropriateness of the use of virtual reality in K-8 classrooms. Educators and children continue to implement virtual reality as a pedagogical tool on a regular basis. These are some assumptions. Upon conducting a review of the literature about virtual reality's role in training in various industries, a myriad of results points towards satisfactory implementation with varying degrees using adult participants. Furthermore, researchers studying the efficacy, effectiveness, and appropriateness of virtual reality as a viable medium for learning and teaching in educational landscapes have concentrated their efforts mainly on higher ed and to a much lesser degree on 9th through 8th grade students. The basic assumption for continued introduction of and implementation of virtual reality as a pedagogical tool in lower grades or K through 8th is that if virtual reality is good for high school age and adult students, then virtual reality should be used in lower grades as well. Now is the time to individually and collectively ensure that when children engage with immersive media in their near and distant future, their experiences are positive, productive, and safe. Here are some arguments for virtual reality use. The use of virtual reality as an effective training tool continues to grow. Studies that support the following conditions are: participants in research studies reported positive outcomes in motivation and increased engagement when learning occurred using virtual reality compared to other media such as text, video, and/or audio. Virtual reality can enhance participants' empathy in situated learning opportunities such as virtual field trips. Virtual reality offers the possibility to carry out training sessions in the absence of a human tutor when appropriate. Virtual reality provides opportunities of experimental education which enhance unique vocational schools. Virtual reality offers repeated practice until mastery of training skills are adequate. Virtual reality shared environments or virtual workspaces allow participants to collaborate with real-life components to solve complex virtual manufacturing and production concepts. Let's look at some arguments against virtual reality use. Critics of virtual reality as pedagogical tool have challenged the age appropriateness for its use with younger learners. Most of the existing body of research studies about virtual reality have been conducted using adult participants and not children. Virtual reality head-mounted equipment and peripherals recommended use is intended for children above the age of 13. Limited medical research studies exist documenting that the impact of virtual reality use on younger children's health. Virtual reality and periphery are costly and unaffordable by most school districts or educators, hence creating a gap of learning opportunities for the underprivileged and marginalized. Virtual reality can lead to a disconnect from the real world by implanting false memories in children who experience too realistic experiences even with the use of very rudimentary VR. Let's check on the validity of arguments. So Bell reports that in late November 2018, a cross-sectoral group which included designers, developers, child development, and media researchers, educators, parent advocates, medical doctors, child health experts, and vested stakeholders gathered to discuss how to better prepare for the future of immersive technologies, including virtual reality. Among the topics during the workshop were how to ensure that virtual reality is safe, engaging, and beneficial to children's social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development and learning. As a result of this workshop, needed research and considerations for responsible development of immersive experiences for children have surfaced and have been focused on. Recently, huge corporations have started to use virtual reality for training and upskilling their workforce. These investments are driving down the cost of VR equipment to price points which may lead widespread adoption by education industry. On the other hand, opponents base their claims on the lack of extensive and sound health research studies on younger learners who are currently experiencing virtual reality in educational landscapes throughout the world, and the impact that this exposure might affect them cognitively in the future. Future research studies need to focus on how virtual reality affects younger children's cognition, health, and learning longitudinally. The values emphasized. Proponents of virtual reality as a pedagogical tool cite deeper learning through innovation and situated learning as a value being emphasized when using virtual reality. As witnessed in countless classrooms throughout educational landscapes, virtual reality's capabilities to immerse the participant in a situated learning is clearly on the rise. Whereas traditional pedagogy emphasized rote recall of material taught with text, audio, and video, the emphasis of deeper understanding through situated learning is important since it provides virtual reality participants the opportunity to develop empathy by embodiment. And as a result, the learner's ability to recall lived experiences in the virtual environment as emotional experiences. The values compromised. Opponents of virtual reality as a pedagogical tool express that health risks to younger learners is a value that is most compromised, and they believe that children's health should be considered first and foremost prior to having children delve into sophisticated, realistic, and immersive environments. The question then becomes, at what cost to young learners' health will this new immersive technology adoption lead to? The consensus by experts seems to be that they don't yet know enough about how this technology affects a child's development. Little is yet known about how these visual technologies may impact young children neurologically and how these virtual reality experiences may affect learners' continued exposure longitudinally, even though virtual reality has been existed for decades. My personal position. I believe that virtual reality should be used as a pedagogical tool in K through 8 classrooms with developmentally appropriate mindfulness. Virtual reality provides students and teachers the opportunities to adopt new visual technologies which engage and motivate learners that text, audio, and video cannot. The immersive and embodiment capabilities and situated learning experiences provided by virtual reality lead learners to feel like they've experienced it firsthand. These emotional connections go beyond what traditional pedagogies can offer for deeper learning. Overall, I believe that virtual reality opens up opportunities for learners to experience learning in a new, engaging, and incremental short periods of use and appropriate depending on age. As more investment in VR industry happens, training and upskilling by major corporations continues, future research and adoption by educational entities flourish, virtual reality will be used in K-8 classroom as a pedagogical tool throughout the world, following research studies recommendations as these become available. Suggestions for problem solving. To increase the use of virtual reality as a pedagogical tool in K-8 classrooms, I afford the following suggestions. Use virtual reality as a pedagogical tool in K-8 classrooms for short intervals of time. The next suggestion would be use low-end, age-appropriate virtual reality equipment and content with K-8 learners. Another suggestion is to consider the learner's age development when using virtual reality equipment and content as a pedagogical tool in K-8 classrooms. The next suggestion is to encourage health research studies on virtual reality use by K-8 learners to be conducted from multiple stakeholders as soon as possible. The outcomes of these results can dictate guidelines, best practice to be used when virtual reality is used as a pedagogical tool with young learners. This is Simon Puente coming to you live from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.